Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This video is for AP World, and it's time for us to start getting into Unit 4, what is called transoceanic connections, interconnections, in the period 1450 to 1750. So this keeps us in the same time period as what we were looking at before. So Unit 3, we looked at the land-based empires, and the land-based empires we discussed were, say, the Ottoman Empire, the Safavid Empire, the Mughal dynasty of India, Russia, the Songhai Empire in West Africa. In this unit, we're going to focus much more on the maritime empires, a really important time period, 1450 to 1750, for the first wave of European imperialism outside of the continent of Eurasia. So we're going to have the Spanish funding Columbus and eventually creating the Spanish Empire that is kind of colored goldish up on this map. The Spanish are going to create a huge empire in the Americas and totally devastate existing land-based empires like the Incans and the Aztecs, which will be brought to an end by this. Next up is the Portuguese, who will build an empire inside Brazil, inside Angola and this interior African region, as well as a bunch of trading posts all throughout the globe. The French will build up some empire inside Louisiana, and the British, of course, will build up some empire, like, for example, the 13 colonies. And the Dutch will create an empire inside Indonesia, the maritime empires. This 4.1 standard is going to deal mostly with our theme 6 in AP World, which is technology. The building up of these maritime empires relied on technical innovations, which happened from 1450 to 1750. Knowledge, scientific learning, and technology from the classical, Islamic, and Asian worlds spread. So one of those examples is the astrolabe, which was created by the classical Greeks and mastered by the Islamic world. It measures the inclined position of celestial bodies to determine location. Next up is, for instance, Islamic technologies like, for instance, mathematics, as well as Asian technologies like the compass, which facilitated European technological developments and innovation, particularly at the Portuguese school that was created to develop understanding of navigation by Prince Henry the Navigator. The developments included production of new tools, innovations in ship designs, and an improved understanding of regional wind and current patterns, all of which made transoceanic travel and trade possible. Examples include the caravel. The caravel looks like this. It's a 15th century Portuguese ship that was used to explore the West African coast. Lateen sails were on it, which allowed the boat to sail back into the wind. The most famous examples of them are Christopher Columbus's ships, the Nina and the Pinta. Next up is the carrack. The carrack is a 15th century ocean-going caravel with three to four masts, used to trade along the African coast, Asia, and America. The most famous example is probably Christopher Columbus's ship, the Santa Maria, and is sort of like the stereotypical pirate ship that you always see depicted in the Caribbean. Next up are the Dutch ships called the flutes, a 16th century Dutch cargo ship that could carry 2 times the cargo for half the price with half the crew as one of these other ships like the carrack or the caravel. In 1670, flutes were carrying about half of all European sea trade, so they were massively important. European technological developments influenced by cross-cultural interaction with the classical Islamic and Asian worlds. For example, the Lateen sail had been used for a very long time period at this point to trade inside the Indian Ocean. This became popular on European ships and allowed for sailing by tacking back and forth into the wind. The compass was invented in Han Dynasty China and eventually diffused to the Mediterranean basin, and the Europeans were able to use it to sail on the high seas. And astronomical charts were developed, like, for instance, those that depicted the stars by Dutch cartographer Frederick de Witt, like this one here. And of course, there was also a lot of European improvements in map making, like, for instance, with the map Nova Totius Orbis Mappa ex optimis auctoribus de Sumta by the Dutch cartographer Peter van den Kier, all of which were technological innovations that allowed for the Europeans to create the maritime empires that they made. That's 4.1.